Super.
Thank you. Welcome to the Digital Equity Session. I'd like to introduce Jane James, who it turns out we've known each other for
Alrighty,
15
years.
and used to work together on a national network. And so when we were talking with COSIN about helping to sponsor some presenters, Jane's name came up, and I sort of jumped on it and said, this will be great. She's done a lot of good work over the years in working in educational technology. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, we are a state chapter of COSIN, an affiliate, if you wish, and as a national organization, for those of you that aren't aware of COSIN, they do a lot of great work, and Jane's going to talk about one of the areas in which they have a lot of resources. And if your district's not a member of COSIN, I would encourage you to take a look at it, if for nothing else, to help support it, but you don't even need to be a member to access a lot of their toolkits and resources. So after that shameless promotion, I'm going to turn it over to Jane.
Thanks, Seymour. And it's I was thrilled to see Seymour's email when I got the email to say, hey, can you come and present? And I was like, I know that guy. In fact, I've known that guy for years. So it's fun to be here. It's fun to be back in Oregon. I used to work at ISTE down in Eugene, and commuted back and forth to the Kansas City area for 3+ years. I have to say, it's a terrible commute, but it was always fun to get back to the nice green trees and hills and beautiful, beautiful terrain. So can you guys hear me in the back? Yay, okay, super. So if you haven't had the chance, if you want to download the toolkit, we talked about this being an interactive session. I did put a few things on tables, and we are going to be interacting some. So it would be great if you can download this. If you can't see the long URL, you can just go to cosin.org and find the Digital Equity Action Agenda. And once you're on that page, you can download the toolkit. It is free. They do ask for your name and address, but they don't do any, I promise. Those of you that just went to my colleague Lynette's session, we don't do anything with your names, so it's all private. That's great. How many were at Lynette's session lesson? Okay, great. And how many of you know Marie? Marie, hold up your hand. She's one of our other COSIN colleagues and lives right here in Portland, so you've got a great resource in Marie. Marie, can you just share the initiatives that you work on for COSIN?
So I lead 4 initiatives for COSIN. One of them is Leadership for Mobile Learning. One of them is Smart Education Networks by Design, which deals primarily with networks, fiber, the lower layers, in addition to now having created a sub-initiative that has to do with the cloud. And then the 4th initiative that I work on is cybersecurity.
Super, thanks. So she's right here in Portland if you need more resources. And I was thrilled that you came to the conference so we could hang more. All right, so everybody doing okay on the toolkit? Anybody having issues? If you have an issue, feel free to raise your hand. Your neighbor can help you. All right, great. All right, so for our time together, and we don't have a lot, we'll be together until about 11:15 or so. Don't want to get in the way of lunch. What you saw in the workshop brochure is pretty much what we're going to be looking at. We're looking at the digital equity challenges because there are many, and there's also challenges knowing that there's resources within the community. That also comes with some speed bumps. We want to be able to leverage this toolkit to kind of help you get underway, target ideas for collaboration. And then, one of the key issues that we're having a lot of success with, and I'm sure you do in your districts as well, is really leaning on and depending on your student voice, utilizing student leadership to move digital equity forward. And then be thinking about, don't worry, there's no test at the end, but be thinking about, all right, 30 days out, what do I want to be doing? 60 days out, what should be happening? And in 90 days, which heaven forbid, maybe almost at the end of summer, like what are you going to hit the ground with in the fall that you could do in this area? So when we think about digital equity, our CEO, Keith Kruger, who brings greetings, by the way, he was very sad that he could not be here himself this week. He said, Jane, you're going to love this conference. And he was totally right. It's been an awesome couple of days. But he talks about digital equity as really a civil rights issue of our time. And we are, right now the toolkit is a PDF, as you've just downloaded, but we're going to take it to an interactive site. And so this will be, that's coming very soon. Probably the beta will be up within the next month. And it just talks a little bit more about, with the rapid pace of change and with how things are moving, we really need to be on this topic if we aren't already. So one little point of, how many of you have seen this graphic before? I mean, it's just, it's the best. Feel free to steal it. I had it sourced on my other thing, and I should have sourced it here. But, equity doesn't necessarily mean equal, right? When you think about, if we think about equity with shoes, every kid gets a pair of shoes. Okay, great. Shoes are important. But if those shoes don't fit, it's like, well, thanks, maybe, but no thanks. And we had the good pleasure of talking with Carmen from the Kent district yesterday at lunch, and he was talking about how they've got a one-to-one initiative, went into a resource center, a school that was specifically for special needs, and he saw the cart, the laptops collecting dust. And they were working with students who couldn't communicate at all. They couldn't talk. And so it was like, wow, all right, this is a case of equality, definitely not equity. And of course, he got right on it and got them some devices that could interact and meet their needs. And that was far more equitable. And, when we think about equity overall, our working definition is that, hey, do people outside of the school day, inside and outside, do they have access to computing devices? Do they have the broadband, not only at school, but at home and within the community? And community is important because, we're seeing a growing number, unfortunately, of homeless students, right? So they need places in the community to go as well. And then the services to make sure that members have these digital literacy skills. Because if their parents aren't digitally literate, they might not necessarily see the need for their students to have access as well. City of Kansas City, where I spend most of my time, has been working on an actual citywide digital equity plan. And I applaud them for this. Because it's not, it's not a huge town, but it's big enough to have a pro football team and a pro baseball team and lots of great chefs and good music and traffic, so we qualify as an urban area, about 1.5 million people across both states, Kansas and Missouri. But I really like their definition. And, if you just take a minute there and look at it, are there any words there that pop out to you as maybe a little different paradigm than what you've been thinking about with digital equity? Let's read it here a minute. Anybody want to share any specific thing that they see there that pops out to them? Yes? Capacity? Yeah, pretty key, right? And outside of the school day, capacity's kind of a crapshoot, right? You don't necessarily know what's out there. Any other words?
Civic and cultural participation.
Yeah.
About equity there, making sure that the culture is fully supported no matter where you come from.
Right. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Kansas City was the first Google Fiber city, and it was really interesting. They're gigabit to these, housing developments. And I'm visiting and my mouth is just watering thinking, wow, what a gift. And you know what? They didn't have any takers. Those communities were like, because culturally, it was a cultural disconnect. They felt like that internet was going to spy on them to see if they were cheating on their food stamps, literally. And so Google had to step back and say, whoa, we need some people that know these people that are trusted, parishioners and community people and Meals on Wheels people and, all of the folks that get their community. And so that cultural piece is pretty key in getting uptake. So was anybody in Carmen's session yesterday? Yeah, okay, so this was one of his sketches that the students had done, and I just think it's really cool where they're talking about all of the different places that they need to connect. I love the bus. And, after school, things in their library, talking at home, they got the virtual tutor going. And I just thought this was like, oh, perfect. I have to steal this picture for my presentation tomorrow. But, kids have a pretty good sense of why they want to be connected after school. And Carmen talked a little bit about that importance of getting a whole community vision for that, because they're outside of his school as much as they're inside school, right? And they also, the piece about, having to do homework after school. It's just getting in greater need, and if they can't connect, they can't do the homework. Now, is this on? We'll find out. I'm not sure if it goes on. Let's see if you'll be able to hear this. We've got a little, got a short video here. Or did have.
Seattle when I was a CIO there for the school district, and then that we just recently duplicated in the Kent School District was what we called our Teaching and Learning Technology Visioning Summit, where we brought together, in Kent we brought together 144 people. It was students, teachers, parents, guardians, principals, community partners, business partners, district leadership. We brought them all together for an entire day where we did a facilitated discussion and exercises to really help create the vision for where technology needs to go in the Kent Valley to make sure that we're not just known for our technology, but we're known for what we achieve with that technology. So with regards to digital equity, again, we looked at it's not just putting devices in the hands or giving the connectivity, but being a very diverse community, we need to make sure that we support all the students regardless of their economic situation or their ability to speak English. And one of the big things is to make sure that all of our teachers have the same skill set, because equity is lost if you have students that have the same devices, but they're being taught differently in the classroom. And when we're trying to prepare our students for 740,000 tech jobs in the Pacific Northwest over the next several years, if the students aren't being exposed to that in their classroom, it's because their instructors have different levels of digital expertise, then we're not meeting our digital equity needs. So it really starts with the training also.
Could you guys hear that? Was it okay? Okay. So I thought he very eloquently stated that. He also talked about the importance of having students. I just want to give you this quick.
So, as we put together our summit and we're bringing everybody together, and one of the big questions is, who are the most important people that play a role in that? It's not IT, because the vision's not about the summit. It's not the teachers, although they're a very important part. The most important voice at the summits and in everything is the students. And the important thing is, don't underestimate the power of students at any age. We had students at our summit in Seattle as low as the 5th grade, in Kent as low as the 4th grade. And I remember one of the executives from Microsoft
So that cultural fit, there again, really, really, really key. All right. Sorry, switching over here. So as we think about digital equity, you know, here's the good news. They say that 99% of our classrooms are going to be pretty robust over the next 4 to 5 years. District hardware purchases, going mobile, a lot of one-to-one. How many of you are one-to-one now? Okay, about a third. How many of you are aspiring to get there? Okay, yeah, it's quite an investment. And you know, this one, the scary news is 50% of our instruction is going to be delivered in a digital format, probably in the next 2 to 3 years. So if we think about that, and you know, when they're outside the school day and have to do homework, or they're working on projects, they're really going to have to connect. And so, you know, you kind of have this equity gap forms because, you know, even though we're getting a lot more investment with, certainly with a modified E-rate, we still got that digital divide. And when we look at the 5 million households, this is an older statistic, it's probably 2014, 2015, but the ratios are staying pretty much the same. You know, when we think about 5 million people that aren't connected, our low-income households, unfortunately, are a huge disproportion to that. And that's both urban and rural. So how many of you teach in a district that has fewer than 1,000 students? Okay, is it tough connectivity-wise? I mean, or do you have?
Still struggling just to get to the one-to-one ratio and also up our Wi-Fi access to support those devices. Because the devices are coming in faster than infrastructure can keep up.
Yeah, right? There's almost
buildings and everything.
Yeah, she was talking about not only devices are an issue, but the bandwidth. It's kind of this insatiable demand. And, you know, this was interesting. You know, 75% of school systems surveyed, they don't really have a strategy for working off campus. And that makes sense. I mean, my gosh, just to get done everything you need to get done during, within your school day is enough of a grind. But then try to take on the world, you know, outside of the school day as well, huge. Oh, I don't know if I dare say that word much anymore, but you know, sorry. What we're finding though is collectively it has to happen. So what is it that we can do together that none of us can do in isolation? And that's really what the toolkit is about, is to provide some resources for you to start the conversation outside of the doors of the school with people in the community, whether they be your government agencies or your churches or McDonald's or whoever it might be. There's leverage out there. And, you know, for your students' sake, you want to, you know, it's, as my mom used to say, you know, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think in this situation it is, because there's so much to be gained by reaching out to others. So, but it is complicated, right? I mean, you know, we tend to be isolated in our own system. We're busy dealing with all of our internal politics and communication and don't necessarily mix it up with cities. A lot of times, you know, there's so many things going on. I know just within the Kansas City, Missouri school district, we have, I was in a school the other day and they had 42 different interventions happening within, like, grant related, grades K-6, and I'm thinking, okay, that's nice that so many people want to help, but, you know, that's a lot of noise and a lot of traffic. So how do you leverage that? Here again, duplicated efforts. You know, or maybe the cable company is putting fiber right down where, very close to your school, and they didn't even consult you, you know, like, You know, those kinds of things. So it's just, you want to be leveraging every resource you can. But we know there's speed bumps along the way. So here's where we have an activity. Probably see a familiar tool that's at your table. There's a couple of crayons there and a little index card. So, or you could use the cool Cozen pens that Seymour just handed out. But if you do, write big, okay, large. We're looking, if you're going to use your crayon, I'm looking at, you know, probably a 40-point font at least as you write, so people can see it. So what I'd like you to do is to write down in your mind, what's your biggest speed bump as you're moving down this road for digital, you know, to move the digital equity initiative forward. Where are you guys, you know, bumping into things? And there may be, you know, obviously there's more than one barrier probably, but think of the one that's kind of keeping you up at night. Or maybe you haven't even thought about this at all. But, you know, go ahead, make sure everybody has a card. Write down the one thing, and when you've finished writing it down, stand up. Do you need to? We don't have any. Don't have any at all? Aw. Sorry about that.
Just probably didn't expect people to say thank you.
Yes, exactly. And thank you for doing that, by the way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
And here again, you can use a pen. Is there anybody else that doesn't have a card? Need a card? Back table needs cards. Got some extras there? All right, that's great. You guys have some extra cards there? Super. There we go. Okay, yeah. All right, when you're finished, go ahead and stand up. And if you're on this side of the room, let's form a line with your card. If you're on this side of the room, form a line with your card. Sorry, I'm giving the swivel fits, I'm sure. Once your card's set. All right. And if you have any bags kind of sitting in the aisle, or if you have a chair that's kind of sticking out, if you can kind of push it in. All right, and what I'd like you to do, we're just about there. Everybody's just about done writing their biggest speed bump. All right, and we're just going to do kind of a little march here, and hold your card up, and when you find somebody that has the same kind of barrier you have, join up with them and keep moving with them. So it's going to kind of be a pack. If my speed bump was budget and I'm walking along and I happen to see that this person might have budget, then we join forces and we keep moving. So for those of you, don't move yet. Those of you that are spatially challenged, this group is going to walk this way, and this group will walk this way. So you're going to kind of pass one another. Ready? And then just keep going until you feel like you've got a good critical mass.
And then you reverse if you find someone that...
No, you just join up with them. And when you find somebody that's like you, join up with them.
All these rich people.
Walk a little bit to the corner. We'll bring technology. Maybe we'll wait. Okay, looking up. Let's wait.
Yeah, that's available. All right.
Parents.
You don't have anybody? Yes. Oh, what do you have?
Mixed device.
Mixed devices in the classroom.
Okay. Did everybody find somebody?
No.
We got a couple people that don't. So we've got some mixed devices. Anybody have an issue with mixed devices? If not, wait, might that be a training issue? Could I cluster you in the training issue, or do you want to stay by yourself? Okay. Who else is lonely? Native language. Is language an issue? Does anybody else have a language issue? I'm surprised, actually.
Well, yeah, but
Okay.
we had to pick one.
All right, right. And what are you guys? Where are you guys?
We're access at home or knowing who that is.
Okay.
You know.
So you guys are okay? Great. Meet up. Are there any? Where's my budget group? Yeah, it's usually the biggest group. All right. Money problem. We got parents. Anybody else? All right. Everybody else is kind of in a group. Teachers. Training. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do is, with your group, go ahead and you can either stand or you can grab chairs and sit down. We're going to take about 6 minutes to brainstorm what, like 3 big problems in your topic area and any potential solutions you might have. And be prepared to report out in like 7 minutes. All right? Ready? Go. If they're a big group, you can just stand if you want to. We're in groups.
What are we doing? Not as many as some people. But if you send it out digitally, it's almost guaranteed.
All the small school districts taking over technology. They started from routers and servers, and now with desktop and everything. And what's happening, we're getting grants from the specialists.
You're all by yourself.
That's nothing unusual with me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you brainstorming?
I am actually brainstorming.
Okay, good, good.
So they often just let the schools do what they're going to do, and so they literally don't read the newsletters. So we recently $1 million grant built out the processes for them.
I'm talking from the ground up. What are we going to do?
So how about the tablet power? What did you call them in your district? Or do they have cellular up there in the home?
Very interested in I just know ESD. ESD as well. They're in Vancouver. Type of quality is we used to support that. And he wants to cover K-12. Now he's out. He started a one-on-one program in kind of quality. So we have PI programs. So it's 2 to 5. Early intervention. So we're talking about autism.
Okay, we're going to take about another 3 minutes.
It's coming up with
Being translated is what he uses.
yeah.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Three minutes. Hey. 3 minutes.
Google says no. Thankfully, finally, they're trying to get some,
By the time you get them service,
All I want you to do. Yeah.
Okay, let's take one more minute.
Yeah.
I know that.
Okie doke, we're going to take about another 30 seconds. Do you want to do our first report out?
No, not really.
Okay.
So the one I don't have a solution.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up our conversations. Would you guys mind modeling in the first group? Just basically say what your issue is.
Of course I'm.
And then
Because we'll be the tough ones. Everybody else loves something else. Sure.
You know,
I
just
don't know
kinda like-
if we're good ones, but we can.
I'm
a volunteer.
It's all good. It's all good.
volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say what your issue was, a couple of the problems with that, and then some potential solutions in 45 seconds or less. It's all good. 30 is even better. So, okie doke. If we can have everyone's attention over here, this group is going to model what you're going to be reporting in just a very few short seconds. All right, the toughest part of this is conversations get started and it's so good, but then we got to like wrap up. But hopefully now, I mean, in looking around, you've met maybe one or two people that you didn't know when you walked in, and you'll be able to follow up with them at lunch. So what we're going to do is this is like a quick whip around. So 30 seconds, 45 seconds top. What's the problem? You know, a couple of attributes of that problem, some potential solutions, and then we move on. And then what I'd love for you to do is, if you can take a crayon once you've finished reporting out, if you can just kind of give us a couple of those bullet point problems or bullet point summaries, somebody that likes to write, then I'd love to collect all of these because we'll just add it to our site on issues. It gives us a little bigger pool of what people are feeling. So.
Okay, well, I'm Jen from Edmonds, and my issue standalone is mobility. Students that move around, maybe our McKinney-Vento students. Big barrier here. This is a tough one. And obviously the issues that we have, our kids are totally disconnected. They don't have the digital resources. They don't have a specific place to go to every night maybe, or they're bouncing around so much they can't keep up with the curriculum. So this sometimes is digital, sometimes there's a lot more that comes into it. We can't deal with everything that comes into it, but what we can deal with on the digital side, at least in Edmonds, is we have a very active McKinney-Vento rep. Within our district, we have natural leaders that help us out with the language barriers, and we spend a lot of money on busing our kids in. And we provide them with the resources that we can. So we do what we can with what we have, and that's my 30-second spiel. Mobility.
Great. Thank you. Good job.
So I'm Eddie Turcotte with the Federal Way School District in Washington, and my standalone issue is native language. And so we have one of the highest number of languages that we serve in our district, over 200. And when you see words like all on the screen, and all doesn't include native as a part of that, you're discounting those few people that are doing those individual languages of the over 200 languages there. Sometimes it's limited by the natural ability to see or read that digital technology. And while there is support digitally available. As an example, Synergy uses Bing Translate for its translation of languages. However, one of our largest influx of languages recently, and is the 6th highest language that we support in our district, is Somali, and Somali is not a language that's available on Bing Translate. So even the big corporations that support this translation or these services, they don't necessarily offer for all the languages that are represented in our district, at least. We do have what we call family liaisons that help support our non-native English speakers in the buildings, but then they're also challenged with trying to help and identify the language that has the lower amount of population, whereas they can definitely help with the more common ones like the Ukrainian and the Russian and the Hispanic. But when you get to the more intricate ones and the ones that have fewer in that group, then it's trying to find somebody that is not only willing but also has the ability to dual language with them. So that's.
So well, both of your solutions sounds like collaboration, reaching out to others, depending on that community. I know in one area workshop that I did last month at the closing conference, they're using hotspots for being able, they've got a one-to-one, which is very nice, and they've got hotspots. And so those transient students is just following them. There's also a discount provider in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that is providing discounts, and they aren't home-based. So as the kids move, they still have their connectivity, which is nice. All right, so looking at the time, we're probably not going to be able to get to every single group, so I'm looking for 2 more group volunteers. A big group? Is there anybody that wants to do? Okay. You want to volunteer?
I'll go ahead. I'm Les with Edmonds and from Tiger.
All right.
Parents were our big problem.
Dang parents!
Buy-in from the community. And we had three types of difficulties. We have traditional or Luddite parents that want to see paper and pencil, and we found that through proving through example how well the technology works, that most of them will come on board eventually. ESL or cultural differences, we found that community outreach as well as removing the language barrier, Google Translate has been very helpful with that. And then our last one is behaviorally difficult students and how some of those parents don't want to have their children have any more electronics or any more access or exposure. And unfortunately, we don't have a solution because often the parents also seem to be behaviorally difficult. I don't know why that is, but there seems to be some sort of one-to-one correlation there, at least in my experience.
Anybody have a solution for them?
I have some experience I can share because I've worked for behavioral schools for Northwest Region. So I'll talk to you later about it.
All right, great. That's super. Thanks. Good job.
I wrote teacher and training teaching.
Uh-huh.
I work for Northwest Regional SD West. I have to say it's part of Cascade Technology Alliance, which Multnomah SD, Willamette SD, Northwest Regional SD. So we went from serving 21 school districts to 51.
Wow.
And my role is technology support for special ed schools. We support EI, early intervention, from 2 to 5, and then school age. So I have all the spectrum, mostly behavior and not more. So my problem is teachers.
Okay.
We getting, have a grant, our program getting iPads by hundreds, and all the equipment come to the classrooms and teacher has no clue what to do with it. They say, thank you, no thank you. Or I get Chromebooks with a Chrome card in a classroom and teacher calls me and says, I need you to turn on internet and install Microsoft Word on Chromebooks. So I'm working to get that teacher will not get any new equipment in their hands until they go to 2-hour training minimum.
Yeah. Professional development, definitely the answer. That's great. And other solutions for that?
Start with the administrators. It always follows
Yeah.
the culture of the administrators in the school.
Yeah.
Administrator, but a set of Chromebooks for OYA, it's St. Mary's School for Boys. And then she pushing to get another set, and teachers and I keep telling her that's not working with a white-listed proxy sites. Why to get Chromebooks for the kids who only can go to 6 sites? That's not a solution.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so you've got some complicating, mitigating pieces there. And certainly those of you that include teachers in your planning from the get-go, that helps, right? Have their buy-in along the way. We've got time for a couple of more. What about one of our big groups? Anyone? Yeah?
On internet availability outside of the district or outside of the school. So kind of played into the mobility subject. Our identified problems were access to infrastructure, so access to the services, access to or the procurement of devices, and then cultural. So cultural language, that type of issues. So some of the examples were obviously the transient or homeless population in our schools. So I think that was kind of answered a little bit there. But you know, obviously trying to find providers that wouldn't offer air cards or something like that at a steep discount or granted. The infrastructure piece, 2 of us have Comcast, crazy discounted for those families, but actually jumping through the hoops, I have not yet seen it successful. On my campus, we have a PACE program, and some of those kids try and jump through the hoops to get connected and never actually see it connected because they just make so many roadblocks in their way.
Conquest is making roadblocks.
Just to try and get
process is too
$20,
hard.
you know, a month internet. And then, what was the other thing?
We talked about also as a potential solution to help, like maybe create partnerships with either your municipalities or maybe with businesses to try to figure out where pockets of free Wi-Fi are
Right.
in your area so that you can provide that as an option for your families or, you know, those kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
You know, partnerships.
That's a great first step.
We had an example of difficulty in partnerships where they have large companies in their backyard, but they're in rural areas, so server farms and stuff like that, so they know there's connectivity, but yet those people won't play or be power brokers in the school district to help provide or offset.
All right. Maybe that's where your student leaders can come in. I mean,
Nobody can say no.
we've got, well, we have an example, video example. I'll show you of that here in just a little bit. All right, one more group. Anyone?
Well, I think we're the biggest group, which is the cost of dollars and funding. You know, I'm actually presenting this to the board on Monday. We're at least that far down that we've looked at the cost of a hotspot per device, and I'm from Medford, so we're not a small district. But we live in a area that we're not like Portland where we've got a huge infrastructure for this. So our hotspot prices are considerably higher than what you guys would see up north.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's one of the big issues is trying to find out where we can get these devices. And we discussed a lot about, you know, partnering with different organizations, different groups. You know, people mentioned YMCA or McDonald's and things like that. And one of the things I brought up is, at least in our area, a lot of the kids that would need these devices and would be checking these out that don't have this at home are going home from school to an empty household, and they have no way to get to those places. So it's not a possibility to just walk down the street to a McDonald's and things. We're talking about, you know, 3rd graders who are going home alone.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
To empty houses.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're really looking at the hotspot and what it would be, but there's a lot of things around that just from security and how much do you lock it down and who can access it to make sure that you know, these kids aren't just opening it up and inviting all the neighborhood kids to come down and, you know, use you know, unlimited data.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenges with
Yeah.
providing that, and where do you get those dollars from?
Right. And districts are, you know, utilize, certainly the hotspot piece is a solution that's a good groundbreaking solution. It's just the price piece and the partnerships. And we've got a couple of examples of some good partnerships on that. All right, well done. Is there anybody else that has a burning desire to share before we move on? All right. One of the things I'd love for you to do, though, is if somebody can just kind of collect these, because what I'll do is it kind of helps me get an idea of demand and new issues and that kind of thing. And we'll add those to the mix. All right, so. And feel free to sit wherever you want to. You don't have to go back to your original spot. Yeah. Love your peeps. Thanks. That's great. We'll just get. Super. Thank you. All right, so when we think about solutions, whoops, I'm standing in the way. We know that the toolkit is not, what do we got going there? We know the toolkit isn't the end-all be-all, it's a start. And what we're trying to do is take it from PDF into real live videos, tools, etc. I know you were saying we weren't getting much uptake from the Comcast piece. There's another school district in, I think it is Chattanooga, that when they have a parent night, they make those providers come in, and because they also provide some school pieces. So as they are writing new RFPs, they're leveraging more and more for community. And so within the RFP, they said, hey, we want you at 4 parent nights. We want your people to help get these people signed up. So when they go home, click, it's on. Because a lot of these people don't speak the language, don't have, it's technical, it's complicated. So we want to make that as easy as possible. And they've been having a lot of success with that, which has been great. So as far as unpacking the toolkit, here again, we hope to, as we move this, the beta of this site will be up toward the end of the month. But having, the ability to kind of look at what's in there and utilize potentially some of those resources. There's, a survey that you could utilize. How many of you survey your community now? Okay, it's not a trivial task, is it? I mean, okay, and are you getting a pretty good rate? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's like everybody else.
But yeah, but it's a start, right?
Yes, I mean, it's better than 0, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe asking fewer questions more often, right? If you have the opportunity, or parent portal, or whatever, just trying to get, what you can. Certainly engagement tactics are in there, the sustainability piece through the community. Sometimes if the government can offer some type of connectivity there, we know, anybody Connect Home City? Okay, that's a solution that has been very helpful. It's only in about 26 communities though. And I have to say, a lot of them are east of the Mississippi River, which is kind of an issue sometimes. The survey piece, we have a sample survey in there for you. And so it's toward the end of the PDF if you wanted to scroll down, because obviously this is pretty ridiculous to read. But it taps on, okay, the type of technology use at home. People that have been surveying are finding that people say, yeah, I'm connected. And a lot of times it's smartphones. And that's a great start. That's a great first step. But here again, it's kind of hard sometimes for kids to do the homework on the smartphones. And a lot of parents don't let their kids use their phones, which we've found has been kind of interesting. As far as access, questions about related activities that they're using. This is all for the students. And then there's a parent survey as well. And it's kind of interesting to see the differential in that. And here again, we've found that a lot of our schools are using SurveyMonkey, or if they have some kind of portal, they're just popping it in there, or if they have a back to school night, hey, can you answer a couple quick questions for me, that kind of thing. Or embedding it into other data that they're trying to get. But it's pretty key. And is it going to be perfect? Are you going to get a 90% comeback piece? Probably not. Oops, sorry. Did I wig the I wigged the swivel out. You know, there's probably 5 or 6 key pieces that can help with digital equity. Certainly the hotspot solutions are helpful. How many of you have seen the video about the Wi-Fi on buses? Couple? Is it redundant to show? How many people have not seen it? Oh, okay, well then, maybe we're going to take just a minute into it. We probably won't watch the whole thing, but it gives you a couple of ideas here. And this video, if you were wanting to show this video to, say, your board members or planning committee, this one on the PBS site is pretty nice.
Tonight, an innovative solution to bridging the digital divide for students. Too frequently, kids and their parents in rural, low-income communities don't have access to the internet and high-quality learning technologies. But in California, a unique project is providing free home access to the web in one of the nation's poorest districts. Much of the footage for this story was shot by teenagers who are part of our Student Reporting Labs network in collaboration with PBS SoCal in Southern California. The correspondent is David Nazar.
30 minutes west of the wealthy suburbs of Palm Springs is a desert oasis best known for its annual Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. But behind the parties and concerts stretches a vast and isolated landscape, home to the second poorest school district in the country, where most families live below the poverty line and struggle just to pay the rent.
We have some of the poorest of the poor in our country, very economically challenged, and 100% of our students are free and reduced lunch. Some of them are living in trailer home parks that, you know, some have been condemned recently, or some in railroad, abandoned railroad cars. I mean, it's just unbelievable some of the challenges they face.
Coachella Valley Unified School District Superintendent Daryl Adams believes the right use of technology is critical for the families in this area, like Norma Olivas and her daughter Anissa Perez.
I do see students sometimes struggling, and right now, sometimes some of the kids struggling to get to school to do certain things, and I wouldn't want my daughter to go through any of that. I wouldn't want her to be a dropout.
When Adams took the job in 2011, the graduation rate was 70%, according to the district. One of his key initiatives was to get every student an iPad and Wi-Fi service, but he knew it would be a challenge.
We have 150 square miles to cover, larger than the state of Rhode Island. So when we found out there was spots in areas where students were not connected, we said, well, how can we get them connected? And so one of the ways is, well, look, we got 100 buses. Let's put Wi-Fi routers on those buses, and let's park them where the need is.
Finding the funding for this fleet of buses was no easy task. Nevertheless, in 2012, the community voted for and passed Measure X, a nearly $45 million school bond to fund the mobile learning initiative over 10 years. They called the program Wi-Fi on Wheels.
Give me another day. In the bus, it's kind of cool that we have internet, because when the project is due the next day, we could actually spend time to do it.
All right, so that gives you an idea, and I welcome you to watch the rest of it. It's on YouTube, or if you just say Wi-Fi on Wheels, you'll find it. They not only have the Wi-Fi for the commute times, the activity buses, but they also park them. They have a solar panel on the top, which in the desert, pretty good idea. Keeps it powered at night, and they park those buses in some of the low-income neighborhoods, so kids have access. I know. Is anybody else doing the parking lot piece with their students? I know somebody was talking with me yesterday that said that they have a couple of police that come and stay, but at night they just open up their parking lot for kids to do homework, and they get quite a few takers. Just sitting in cars or sitting outside. I mean, obviously it's not like the perfect solution, but it's it's getting kids online. And so there's quite a few vendors that help with this. We're seeing it more and more. Certainly California was an innovator. With every innovation, obviously this superintendent actually just moved on. Because it was a big disruption, right? I mean, that was something totally new. but the fact that their parents got behind it and actually funded it as part of the bond, I think was pretty impressive. Because clearly it's not a huge community and there's probably not a lot of wealth there. Using other people's bandwidth. There's a lot of dark fiber, these mesh networks, you know, kind of piecing together pieces of this, pieces of that. Anybody had any luck with that? There's a lot of nonprofits that are working in this area. And then also, how many of you have a relationship with your public broadcasting station? Do you do any collaboration with them at all?
I can share with the group something that we're not doing it, but I heard from another school district. They get together boys and girls clubs, and then they're working with, it's a target quality school district who said we went to apartment managers and asked, allow kids to do homework in the centers and keep it open late so
Yeah.
they can use virus.
So that's a really great solution. The Boys and Girls Clubs usually have some type of connectivity through some type of funding. The public broadcasting systems are collaborating with a vendor right now, and COSN's very vendor neutral, so clearly I don't mention a lot of this company or that company, but there has been a company that's been working, you know, a lot of these public broadcasting stations started out as educational stations. They're with junior, you know, community colleges or even larger school districts, and they have bandwidth that can be repurposed for internet. And there is a partner right now that is actually partnering with the public broadcasting station, providing devices and providing bandwidth, hotspots for students. And they're operating off of that extra spectrum and bandwidth. So that's kind of this is an area that is kind of evolving, but certainly some out-of-the-box pieces. I was at a nonprofit group in Kansas City, in a pretty rough part of town, actually, but they were at this community center, and they had collected 10 or 15 little bits of spectrum that the rest of the city wasn't using, and they had the technology savvy to kind of piece it all together. And so that particular neighborhood, we were able to light it up, and now they're working with, you know, the local ISP to provide cost-effective solutions. But I thought that was, you know, very, very enterprising. You're going to see some case studies in the toolkit for a lot of these different areas. You know, certainly the provider discounts you mentioned. Some are as low as $7.95, $9.95. If you don't know, how many of you are familiar with a site called everyoneon.org? Yeah. All right, so that will be, we'll put that up in the site. That's fantastic. You put in a zip code and it shows all the providers. And, you know, it's a place to start. Even if you could get 10% of your student population on that way, it's 10% more than you had. And then I find quite often that these providers, they're pretty keen. I mean, the FCC is kind of watching their numbers too. They want to get more people on, and I think it's a good solution. One of the other things that's happening with some of the providers, maybe that is a smaller ISP, working with them, in Boulder, Colorado, there's a lot of, you know, big tech and a lot of the bigger ISPs, but there's also a local one. And so they came to one of our assistant superintendents, that's a member at COSN, he's the co-chair of our advisory panel, and he said, hey, you know, can we put a tower on your elementary school? Because we, you know, want to extend our reach. And he said that he was happy to do that, providing that they gave everyone in that neighborhood on free and reduced lunch free connectivity, and that they went door to door and signed people up. It's a pilot, but not a bad idea. So, you know, once we get that more solidified and up online, it may be something that where you want to know. How many of you have a local ISP or an alternative to the bigger? So yeah, and if the pilot goes well, he's going to put towers on multiple schools. So it's great. So we've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to go show you a couple of other examples, then work through, the collaboration piece, huge. And when we think about, what it is we can do together that none of us can do alone, we can't help but be inspired by Franny Millen. She's this gal here. And in 7th or 8th grade, she came home and talked to her dad, who's there with her, and said, Dad, like a lot of my students in my class don't have computers at home, and they can't get online. Like, that's really unfair. That's not right. And he's like, you're right. So what are we going to do about it? And so she started this eLemonade campaign, literally lemonade stands to raise money for people in the community that didn't have devices and didn't have internet. And this is outside of Charlotte in a community called Davidson, fairly large community. They now, when they do eLemonade Day, I think they have over 1,000 lemonade stands. They have a whole media toolkit you can download. They formed this E2D, which is a nonprofit, and they are now providing, they have a system in place to get refurbished devices out in the community. And the refurbishment is not the old clunker junkers, right, that at a garage sale nobody wants. These are machines that are not necessarily vintage. So let me just share a little bit. I mean, that's about as grassroots as it gets, lemonade stand. Oops. I'm sorry, I thought I had it up here. Well, looks like we're going to have to, looks like that's going to be your homework. You're going to have to look that one up. How many of you belong to Shelby? Anybody? Couple? For the health. This is the same person that's doing that tower, is also involved.
Lobbying on our behalf. It sometimes can be very controversial on where the funds go. The digital divide for those of us in public education is huge, and I think about the kids that go home, actually the kids in the classroom, and they get their assignment to go home and watch a YouTube video or to research something or to be able to do a Google Doc that we require them to do, and knowing at that moment those kids without internet at home are having this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm behind before I even left the classroom. And so anything that we can do to help close the digital divide, one big piece of that is getting broadband into these homes is critical. So organizations like Shelby help us influence the government to be able to get the right funding to allow that to happen. I couldn't do that on my own. I wouldn't have gotten it without Shelby.
All right, so schools, health, here again, thinking bigger than just our community, how do we hook that in? And certainly telemedicine and the whole healthcare industry, they've got a lot of money, and they are bringing a lot of technology down to that community level. Especially, yeah.
Our local hospital actually bought clinics in the rural communities, and they needed to get high-speed internet because everything was going electronic documentation. So they're upgrading, and through their own funding resources, are able to bring fiber to a town that would never have been able to afford it, and partnering with them.
That's great.
Bring it to the school while they're doing it at the same time.
Right.
Healthcare facilities have a lot of resources and money available right now for this stuff. There's
and how big is your town?
well, LaGrande, I have no idea. Our school has about 2,400 kids, our main high school, but then we have 4 or 5 outlying small districts.
Uh-huh.
And those ones are 30 to 40 miles out.
Wow.
And they just don't have
Yeah.
the fiber. Some of them are on antenna systems, things like that.
Okay. So healthcare coming into town. Oh, by the way, swing by the school. And oh, by the way, you know, what other hot spots could you provide? Or oh, by the way, you have a community education room. Could we use it, you know, after school? Could the kids be in there? You know, there's just a lot of, it's creative, but you know, a lot of times that's how things get done. And I think our biggest secret weapon for getting a lot of this is serving as a catalyst and building capacity is through our students. These two young women are, one's a 7th grader, one's an 8th grader. They won COSN's very first annual Digital Equity Student Video Challenge. And we wanted to hear student voice, and we wanted to find out what their solutions might be. And so Rancho Minerva Middle School, which is in San Diego County, their junior high actually has a video journalism class, which is pretty cool. But they created a video that was 4 minutes long. And as a result, their school board saw it, a couple of vendors saw it. They had maybe 60 hotspots to pass out to kids, you know, checking in and out of the library. That's a solution that a lot of people are going to. As a result of this video, they're getting 1,200 more hotspots. Yeah. So it's about 4 minutes, but I think it's definitely worth watching. Are we doing on time? Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. And when I first saw this, when they won, I talked to their superintendent and I said, you know, the video's good. Like, it's really good. Like, really, really good. He said, Jane, don't worry. They did it themselves. They really did.
Digital equity is a global issue that impacts our community of Vista, California in a significant way. In order to bridge the digital divide, we need to make digital equity a priority in our community. Digital equity is defined as equal access and opportunity to digital tools, resources, and services to increase digital knowledge, awareness, and skills. The problem is that families in Vista have some form of connectivity, but many are underconnected, with mobile-only access and inconsistent connectivity. Vista serves 22,000 students. 60% include our Hispanic students. 6,000 of that 60% are learning English as a second language.
Another way to help improve digital equity is to make sure that community members know how to find and use digital resources. There are multiple resources that community members can take advantage of, and many of these resources are free. The key is to be informed. The first thing I looked for was free Wi-Fi. I found out that free Wi-Fi hotspots are available in places like restaurants and coffee shops. Most of these locations require you to purchase food or drinks to have access to Wi-Fi. For guaranteed free Wi-Fi, you can go to a public library, courthouse, or even a city hall. The App Store has made it easier to find free Wi-Fi by downloading an app called Wi-Fi Finder. This helps you locate Wi-Fi connectivity within our city and even lets you know if the Wi-Fi is free or if there is a cost involved. Although there are options for Wi-Fi in our city, connectivity is inconsistent. Our school district recognizes this and is working on options to improve this problem. Our principal has taken on the challenge of improving connectivity for all families in our school, and he's doing it in a creative way.
So at Rancho Minerva, internet access is important for our families because we want our students to be connected with always available technology, meaning that 24/7 they have the access to the internet so that they can create content, they can access things that they need to, the resources that they need to, and to be able to be digitally responsible citizens both here at school and outside of school. So we knew that if we could tap into community areas within our community, places where our students are familiar with, places where their families can come in and have a common area, and if we put our Vista Unified Wi-Fi into those areas, that we would have a connected student. And so the way that we did that was I gathered all of the addresses, did a query of all of our students' home addresses, and used a website called GeoBatch. GeoBatch is a website that will map out all of the addresses that you input into a database. And so with that, we were able to then look at common areas where our students reside, and have narrowed in on probably 3 or 4 areas where if we again could connect our students and connect those community centers within that,
help with homework. Another step in improving digital equity is for children to teach their parents and grandparents how to effectively use 21st century digital tools. Teaching tech to the older generation is important so that they can understand how to be competitive in today's world. Some of these skills include understanding search engines like Chrome and Safari, how to use smart search on the internet using Gmail and using apps to check the weather, get directions, and even buy coffee with just a swipe of your screen. When children play an important role in teaching their family technology, it helps bridge a digital divide and brings families within our community closer together. Now that we have done our part in researching how to achieve digital equity, we need our civic and district leadership, along with local businesses, to step up and do their part.
We need them to expand the learning beyond our schools and into our neighborhoods.
If we can connect our community to VOC Wi-Fi, we are confident that this will be cutting edge and we will truly be the example of excellence and innovation. The community of Vista will be connected with always available technology when we work together to solve digital equity.
Not bad, huh? Yeah, yeah. And the kids are just like amazing. We partnered with ASCD on the challenge, and since they were in San Diego, or they were in Anaheim for their national conference, the kids were able to be recognized up in Anaheim. They're there with Zhao Yang. You guys, I don't know if he used to be at University of Oregon. He's now at the University of Kansas. And it was great during his keynote. He just kept asking the kids information, hung out with them afterwards. And Seymour can tell you, I'm a really nice person, but I am a tenacious person. I will just like hang. And I found out that these kids, even though they're less than 60 miles from Anaheim, none of them had ever been to Disneyland. None of them. This was like a group of 10. And so we worked, and finally ASCD reached into their coffers and sent the kids to Disneyland. So it was just a really, it was really great. And then at the Cozen conference, we brought 2 administrators and the 2 students, the 2 lead students, to the conference. So they helped me do a workshop. They're putting together some pre and post videos on how to put videos together. They're going to help us spread the word for next year's challenge. So think about this. Think about how students can be of help to you in solving real problems, and of course certainly helping themselves. So we'll have more of that up on the site as well. So when you think about these 6 areas, I hope that there is at least one area that you can get started on, something maybe that you haven't thought about before. Certainly, as this site comes up, if you are willing to share your email address, I'd be happy to let you know when the site comes up. If you have any extra cards there, or if you have a card and you want to just give it to me, I will certainly add you to that group. What you're going to be seeing as you look through are some starter case studies, but we have more. And I think when you can show a board member or community member a video or media of what other districts are doing, it just really helps kind of leverage your cause. But clearly, together we're better. So if you're not working with any of these people right now, it doesn't have to be everybody at once, but think about strategically what's happening right now within your community. In her community, healthcare is laying fiber. Okay, red alert. That is a great place to start. Who do I need to talk to? If you don't know, find out, right? Or better yet, have your students find out. Have them do an interview to find out what's happening in telemedicine. Tie it to career prep, and then kind of take it from there. Here again, utilize your students if you can. We look forward to having your students participate with us next year. It'll come open probably November-ish and be open throughout the Christmas holiday. We heard from Andrew and the creative things that he's doing. We've also seen on the other end where cities are taking this, to task in a big way. One of my former bosses always said, when in doubt, go big. And it's always been good advice. because, you know, you're going to get somewhere. If you're needing tools, or again, the survey, we're 2 minutes over, so I don't have time to show this video, but if you're needing a process for bringing people together, highly recommend, we'll have some of this up there as well. Certainly the summit that your colleague Carmen did in Kent is a pretty amazing process, and he's got some tips on there we're going to be following up with him on. This collective impact, anybody using collective impact in their district? It's a process that I have to say, I'm a process geek, and I have to say it's a really doable solution. It's free, and you can learn more. And you know, when you think about what it is you're going to do, think about what you're going to do 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out. Hopefully, the last 75 minutes we've been together will help you along that path. And here again, site will be up in the next, probably in the next 20 days. It'll be a beta, so you know, we would love to get some feedback on that. If you've got other questions, feel free to follow up with me or at our Twitter piece. If anybody wants to stay, I'll just roll that collective impact video and people can watch the 2 minutes. Questions? Thoughts?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I'll just give you a little logistics. Lunch is in 15 minutes for those of you that haven't checked out. If you have some time, the keynote will begin at 12:30. It will be followed by our wonderful ice cream social, in which we also have some giveaways that for those of you that are new,
Impressed.
you may want to stick around if you're
I am technology
I'd
engineer.
like to thank Jane because I
But it just clicked to me, this is what I want to do next in my life. Good for you. Because I'm getting old to get on the roof. I can get up, but I can't get up. And
Great.
I worked for
Well, let's add
ESD.
you.
I worked for ESD 20 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But
Well,
I
the
wanna
community,
say-
it's the answer, right? You know?
I want to say Rob Sexton.
Thank you so much.
Rob Sexton.
I don't know who that is.
Our superintendent.
Oh, okay.
He used to be superintendent Tiger Tolton School District, one of the big. He used to be Oregon K-12.
Oh, okay.
Person for Kids Harbor, our government.
Oh, okay.
So now he's a
Oh,
superintendent.
good. He'll have a lot of community influence, don't
And
you
he's
think?
very interested
Great, thank you.
in equality. We have
Hey,
equality
thanks.
team.
Appreciate it. Oh, great. Yeah, thank you. That's fine. Yeah.
Jane, there's my business
Super.
card. So
Thank you
look
so
forward to
much.
hearing from you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good, good.
Thanks
Great.
Thanks for the session.
Thanks for coming.
They have equality meetings every month, and
Okay.
I want to ask, did anybody talk about digital?
Yeah, thank you.
I was
It's a
told-
great equalizer. It can get to
If
a
you have
lot
that
of other.
card, or I want to bring it to our superintendent, invite you
Yeah.
to Northwest Virginia
Yeah.
SD.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is.
I don't know if they have a speaker for our next in service already.
Agree
Oh,
to
okay.
a common goal.
But we
Agree to
work for
track progress in the
counties.
same way, which
Let me
allows
put
for
a little star
continuous
here.
improvement. Do
And
what
then,
each does best
Find
while
out about
identifying new ways
Rob
to work
Sexton.
together.
Okay.
He's on our
Have
website.
consistent communication. And finally, have skilled
He's
and
a
dedicated
superintendent.
resources
Okay.
to support
Very
ongoing efforts.
oriented, bringing technology to
The world's
Okay,
toughest
perfect.
challenges
And we have
ongoing.
Intel in our
In
backyard.
fact, many experts predict
Yeah.
they will continue
Yeah.
to grow in
That's
both
how it is
number
sometimes.
and complexity.
Thank you very
All right.
much. It
Thank
was
you,
very
Lana.
interesting.
Thanks. Lana, is that how you say your name?
It's Svetlana.
Svetlana. Okay, beautiful. Where are you from?
Kyiv, Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
But they call me now local area network administrator, so Lana.
Go girl. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
So you have an organization you're working for, or you have a company?
Well, I work with Cozen on this event, on this particular topic. I also have, it's part-time, so I also have my own business.
Yes,
But I have my Cozen hat on today.
I got it,
But,
because
yeah.
I really need to find what I'm going to do next 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
incredibly...
You've
and I
got
had-
the passion to,
I just say,
you
when
know?
I came here, it was my first visit here. I had 2 people stop me and say, "Do you remember me? I was in your internship program 16 years ago."
Oh,
Hillsborough School District.
Wow.
Two people here.
How cool is that?
So it does
That's
make
great.
sense that we did it 16 years ago,
Yeah.
now we see a result.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Well, good. Thank you.
Jane?
All right. Be honest.
It's very nice.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it met their needs for their?
You know, here's my take on any of these kinds of anything I do is if somebody walks away with one idea that they didn't have,
Yeah.
they're successful. If they find one piece of information, they come back to this toolkit.
Yeah.
And use it. You've been successful because you introduced them to something they didn't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I thought it was good.
Correct.
Can't tell you.
Okay.
That's just
well.
how
That's
I
good.
And I learned.
You'd be honest with me.
I learned things because the survey. I need to do a survey of students and their accessibility. I was going to make one up. Well, now I know you have one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and
it's a good
with
start.
That. So for me, it was.
You know who helped us develop it?
Who?
Glenn Kleiman.
Good.
So, here we go.
Yep.
Family's back together.
Do you want these cards?
Yeah, I do actually, because I'm. The blank one. Yeah, sure. I'll just take them all. Doesn't matter. But I can get them, Seymour. Don't worry about it.
You want it in your recording notes.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how to do that actually. The recording is here.
Should be on the side button.
Oh, okay. I think we just turned it on. Let's see.